How many of you were here last Sunday? Was that awkward or what? We ended the service, for those of you that were not here, going, what are they talking about? Should we leave now? We ended the service with 5 minutes of still, to be still and know that I'm God. I went to a party that afternoon and playing horseshoes with a guy, and he goes, Pastor, you about killed me this morning. I go, oh man, did I say something too harsh? Did I say something too strong? Was I angry? He goes, no, that 5 minutes, man, I didn't like it. I got a kick out of just talking back and forth and seeing what God's been doing, and I'm just excited that we got the freedom and flexibility to go that route. So if you're here today, we're glad you're here. If you're joining us online, we're glad you're here. Thanks for being with us. But we've got a number of people missing, and I want to show you, we got a team up at Fort Scott right now. Go ahead and show that picture if you would, Michelle. We have a worship team up at Fort Scott. The Assembly of God Church up there is pastored by a friend, Steve and Mary Bell. And the smaller the church is, the harder it is for a pastor to get out of town for vacation. And Steve is the worship team. He's got a couple people helping him, but he's the main core of the worship team. So to find a guest speaker at a small church, that's not too hard. You can find someone come in and speak. To find a guest worship team, that's difficult. And so I asked him, hey, we're trying to figure out how we can help love people in Fort Scott. Would it be okay if we send up a worship team for you? And so they're up there leading worship. Their service starts at 10:30 this morning up in Fort Scott. Anthony's the one taking the photo. And as long as Steve's going to be out of town, Steve, do you mind if we have someone speak for you? No, that'd be great. And I said, we suggested someone. He goes, I love that guy, yeah. Noah Mansour is speaking at Fort Scott Assembly of God Church this morning. Amen. Amen. Steve and Noah really hit it off. And so the Fort Scott team, or what I'm calling Zeke and Anthony, the one-service slacker team today, because they only doing one service instead of three, excited for what they have going on up there. There we go. And so we had a meeting 2 weeks ago, and many of you were not here last Sunday because it was Memorial Day Sunday. And totally understand you got out of town. Good. But I wanted to share with you, and I'll share the same thing today that I shared last Sunday with the church. We had a meeting about some version of flag church in Fort Scott. What would that look like? And so we shared the need that there's a need for more healthy churches in Fort Scott, which is, you can share that need anywhere. There's more need for healthy churches in Pittsburgh as well. We got some input from people saying that, I'd be willing to serve, be willing to attend. So the process we're in right now is prayer and fasting. And the board and the staff, we did that last Wednesday, the Wednesday before, and we spent the day praying and fasting about it. So we've made no decisions, and we weren't planning on having any decisions made by now. Right now it's just strategy time and praying, God, what's wise? What should we do? When should we do that? How should we do that? If we should do anything? Which raises the question, why on earth would you have a meeting if you're not sure if you're going to do anything? Well, it's always the right thing to have conversations about reaching people. That was our mindset on that, so we had a conversation. So let me share the prayer points with you that we shared with the church last week if you want to be praying along with us, and that's these. That we'd have clarity for the course. However this course plays out, that we'd have clarity, and that's the how. How should we do it? We'd have patience for the process. As the process plays out, that would help us know the when we would do something, but that we wouldn't veer from vision. The vision's key. Why we would do anything there, or why we wouldn't just double down our efforts here. We're trying to connect people to God and to each other, build vertical and horizontal relationships. So we appreciate you praying with us on that, and thank you for your patience. We're in week 4 of a series that we're calling Pause. And our bottom line statement is this, that life moves to a better place when you move at a sustainable pace. And we all know what it's like when the tension hits and the pace is up to here and there's no more extra to give. And that tension happens in your life. If you're someone who loves Jesus with all your heart, or if you're someone that only uses God's name improperly like I used to before I came to know Christ. So whether you're a believer or an unbeliever today, what we're going to share today from God's Word is not only true, it's helpful, and it'll work. It'll work in your life, whether you're a believer or not. The key question is going to be, if you are a believer, these are not optional. We're commanded to go ahead and make rest a part of our lives. Last Sunday we talked about Sabbath, which some people say, well, that just means on Sunday you don't work. Well, actually, it's talking about a rhythmic day of rest in your life and the power of what Sabbath does. It restores the diminished in our lives. Not the diminished people, but we get diminished simply from living. It replenishes the drained. It repairs the damage. And it's an effort of trust. Will we trust that God can give us, out of 6 days of labor, enough for 7 days of living? Now, that may mean we got to take a lower standard of living because we can make more money if we work 7 days. Am I willing to lower my standard of living to raise my quality of life? And so we ended the service with 5 minutes of be still. And we were still. I had one person catch it this morning, go to me and goes, Pastor, that last 5 minutes, that had to be harder on you than anybody sitting up there. I'm going, yes, it was. It was. And on camera, too. That's crazy. If you're not sure, go ahead and watch the video. The last 5 minutes, riveting action on video. Riveting. And it wasn't until this week as I was rethinking and praying and stuff, what do you call someone that doesn't know how to rest? Restless. None of us want to be called that. It's not considered a compliment. It's not considered a compliment. Today we're going to look at a passage in Scripture, make some observations, and get some application points out of that. We're in the book of Luke, chapter 10, two women, Mary and Martha. Mary and Martha. They had the exact same opportunity. We'll pick it up verse 38. Jesus and his disciples were on their way. He came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. That's pretty nice. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. Seems logical. I'd want to do that too. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to Jesus and said, before we go any further, how many of you have siblings? Please raise your hand. Okay. How many of you had your sibling throw you under the bus? Okay, all right, let's keep going. Here we go. So Martha came up to Jesus and said, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. You ever have a sibling throw you under the bus to Jesus? While he's in the house? And while you're in the room? Awkward. Martha, Martha. Now, when Jesus says your name one time, that's a good thing. When he says your name twice, you're in trouble. It's kind of like Mark, Richard, Layman. Okay, that's not good. That's not good. Let's not go there. All right, Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things. Only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better. It will not be taken away from her. Martha was creating a meal. Nothing wrong with a meal. Can I get a witness in the house? Nothing wrong with a meal, right? Martha was creating a meal. Mary experienced the moment. Martha wasn't doing anything bad, nothing evil, wasn't doing anything that was sin. But Jesus' words are very plain and clear. Mary chose what was better. Mary chose what was better. Martha is in the mood of, hey, Jesus is here. Let's get out the good plates. Let's get out the good silverware. Keep the good silverware away from Judas. Okay, but let's get the good stuff out. And Martha's going, I must offer the best for Jesus, even if I miss out on the best. Well, we have people that do that in this church on a regular basis because they're serving. And on special days like Easter, sometimes they will be the ones that volunteer to serve all 3 services that day. And they miss out on the best by offering their best. That's noble. That's honorable. The problem with Martha here is she was doing great until she got self-righteous and arrogant. Martha was so convinced that she was right and her way was the right way, she interrupted Jesus to tell Jesus, go correct somebody. When you're lacking space in your life to handle things like that, and you have to interrupt Jesus to tell Jesus he's missing out because he didn't chew your sister out, something's up. Something's up. Martha lacked margin. That's what we're going to talk about today. If you have your bulletins, go ahead and pull them out. If not, if you lift your hand, an usher will be glad to get one to you. Margin, the amount available beyond what is necessary. You probably are most familiar with the term when you had to write a paper in school. There's margins on the side, 1 inch on each side or inch on top. Space, extra space. The amount available beyond what is necessary. Ephesians chapter 5 says this, hey you, be careful. Be careful how you live. Don't live as unwise. Live as somebody wise. Make the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. So don't be foolish. Understand what the Lord's will is. And if we're not careful, our culture will twist us to interpret that. Come on, you got to squeeze every moment out of every day. You have a limited amount of time. Come on, do more, do more, do more, do more. But it's not telling us to do more. It's telling us to live as wise. What's wisdom? What does wisdom look like? What is wisdom's pace in our life? Was Martha living wise? Oh, come on, Pastor, that's unfair. She didn't know Jesus was coming. Had she known Jesus was coming, she would have been ready and prepared. You're right, she didn't know Jesus was coming. That's what margin is for. For things that pop up that you didn't know was going to happen, but you want to prioritize. We have regular stuff in daily life that there's no, it's non-negotiable. We got to get to work, we got to do this. Do we have any margin? Do we have anything beyond what is necessary? Can you imagine if you had margin in your life? Because I'm speaking to some people. There's a few of you here that you got more margin you know what to do with. Okay, that's not one of you. Everyone else, we're going, how can I squeeze more into the space that I got? Is that the right direction? To squeeze more into what you have? Or do we need to beg God, God, I deserve a 25-hour day because I do so good with the time that I have? Let's take a look at that. Let's break into that. Because when you have margin, you've got capacity for crises that pop up in your life. I love Jesus. I don't have crises. You have wrong doctrine is what you have. Everyone's going to have crisis. Jesus said it very plainly. He said, in this world you will have trouble. You will have trouble. But hey, you have good courage. I've overcome the world, but you're going to have trouble. There's going to be difficulties. And when crises pop up, you're going to be able to respond and handle it a whole lot better if there's some margin in your life and you've got some space where it's like, okay, I've got some resources, time, strength, energy, financial resources that were not allocated or budgeted anywhere else. I've got a little bit here. We're going to make it through this. We're going to make it through this. There's capacity for crises. When you have margin, you also have time to think. In your bulletin, it says time for thoughts. It would have sounded better if I would have said time to think. When we don't have time to think, what kind of decisions are we making? When there's not time to think. Great ideas, solutions. You know why they pop up at 4 a.m. or when you're in the shower? Because you've been thinking about it, and then you broke away from those thoughts. And you did something else. Maybe you worked, maybe you rested. And then when you weren't even thinking about coming back to it, the solution comes to you. It's actually a brainstorming technique. But you have to get away from it so the back of your brain, the back office there can work on it. Because after a break, you're a better leader. After a break, you're a better employee. When there's margin in your life, you've got space for the spontaneous. Space for the spontaneous. Hey, do you want to go do? Insert something fun here. Insert something rare and exciting here. And your answer is, yes, I want to do that, but no, I don't have any time for the next 3 weeks. Or no, I don't have any finances available. I've been living at 105% of my income. I've been living at 105% of my time, and I don't have time for this amazing opportunity that's now there. Imagine if you had some margin. That may mean you have to do less during the week. It may mean that you guys say, man, I don't know, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you want to do tonight? That's actually a good place to be sometimes. That's a good place to be. Doing nothing is something worth doing. But if you have no extra funds, if you have no extra time, if you have no extra physical health because you haven't taken care of your health, and you're like, oh, I'd love to do that, but I can't. So this next point, I knew I had to get in the series some way. I don't know how well it fits right here, but it's a good way to balance out if you have margin. And that's this. And if there's one thing you memorize from this series, this might be the way that you can actually implement the idea of Sabbath. Divert daily. Daily. Take a spot. Even if it's only 5 minutes and you go in the backyard and you listen to the birds, divert daily. Withdraw weekly. A rhythmic built-in rest. And abandon annually. That whole abandon thing, disengage from work, disengage from life. Forget your stinking lawn. Hire my kid. Forget your mail. Get away. You may not be able to leave the cell phone behind, but turn it off. You know they had that in the Old Testament? Not to turn off the cell phone thing. 3 times a year they got away. They quit worrying about work. They abandoned annually 3 times. They called them feasts. The Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of this, the Feast of that. What was it? It was a 7-day party where they spent time with each other. They ate tons of food. Then they went back to their regular life. You see, when you can pull this off, you've got margin. And margin is basically the indicator if you're operating at a sustainable pace. If you're operating at 100, if you're driving a car and you're operating at 100% of what the engine can handle, you have no margin. If you have to pass somebody, you're out of margin. Now, some of us, I can operate, but I can get more done that way. You absolutely can. You absolutely can. If you're only operating at 90% capacity and you've got 10% capacity you're not using, you can get more done if you'd operate at 95% or 98%, or you'd be fully optimized at 100%. Question, is that wise? If it's not wise, what is it? Because you could get more done. You could earn more. This past Easter, because there's times in your life you're not going to have margin. Easter weekend, I have no margin. I think you can understand. That weekend, I have no margin. So we run a Saturday night service. This past Easter, we had more on Saturday night than we had on Sunday morning at the 8:30 service. It's crazy. Was not expecting that. Well, Pastor, you should do that all the time. At our current staffing levels, we refuse to have a Saturday night service. Well, people would come. It would be effective. It would be efficient. It's better use of the building. You already have the building. You're already making the mortgage payment. No. We refuse to do it because staff-wise, we can't keep up with that pace. That would be an unsustainable. But think of all the extra capacity. We could do it. We could pull it off for a while. But it's not the wisest thing. If we had more staff, if we were doing other stuff, maybe that would be something we would do. I'd be the last person to convert to it. I like my Saturday nights. I'd be the last person. But divert daily, withdraw weekly, abandon annually. That margin is important. Because when you don't have margin, stress goes up the roof, right? When there's no margin, the littlest thing sets you off. When you got margin, no big deal. We're on vacation. We got another 8 days on vacation. Woohoo, no big deal. Plane's late for an hour. Yeah, it's okay. When you don't have margin, what do you mean you're batting fourth instead of batting third? I got to get out of here. And all of a sudden, everything takes the stress up. Financial stress increases. Relationship stress increases. No, we can't do that right now. Not this week. Can it wait till next decade? Can we do that next decade instead? Yeah. Stress increases and relational intimacy decreases. Don't think intimacy is only talking about sexual activity, but actually connecting to people. Not just hearing what they're saying, but listening. There was a recent government statistic, 2014, in our nation. If you're 15 and older, the average is 2.8 hours of television a day. 2.8. Some of you are going, man, I'm above average. Woohoo! No, this isn't where you want to be above average. 2.8 hours. You know, many of us argue and yell, God, give me another hour a day. 2.8 hours a day is almost an 8-day week. If you would go ahead and take those 2.8 hours and not watch TV at all, if you cut all of it out, don't walk out of here saying, Pastor's one of them no TV preachers now. No, TV is wonderful if the Ohio State Buckeyes are playing football. You should have a TV. You should have a big one. I'm not saying TV is wrong. Not in the slightest. 2.8 hours? Is that wise? But I'm watching good stuff. I'm not asking what you're watching. Is it wise? See, most of the time, we don't have the time because we don't take the time to plan our time. Let me say that again. Most of the time, we don't have the time because we don't take the time to plan our time, to work in that rhythmic rest that God requires of us, that God built into us to need. And if you're a business person, I can hear the wheels going, but Pastor, that margin, that 90%, when I operate at 90%, that's my break even. All my profits in that margin, all my profits in that 10%. Well, it's working for Chick-fil-A to shut down one day a week. They built it into how they operate. And you know, it's only been about the past 15, 20 years Chick-fil-A has been building standalone restaurants. Come on, those of you that are older, where's the only spot you could find a Chick-fil-A restaurant? Anybody? The mall. Who closes their store in the mall on Sundays? Chick-fil-A. What about during the holiday season? Chick-fil-A. They're not hurting financially at all. They're paying their employees well. They built it in. They operate knowing that we're going to be closed 1 out of every 7 days. Hobby Lobby's not doing too bad. The Green family, when Oral Roberts University was having some financial difficulties, the Green family just came in and bailed them out financially. And it's the family-owned business, Hobby Lobby. They start their employees at like $12, $15 an hour, and they're shut down every Sunday. It don't matter. Sunday before Christmas, they closed. It's not a prayer factor. It's nothing they're going to pray about. Heard the man speak at one of our Assembly of God national conferences, man. Powerful stuff. They wanted a certain person to be the president of Oral Roberts University. They wanted to hire him. He was the president of Southeastern Assembly of God University. And the president said, no, I can't leave this place right now. We just built 5 buildings on this campus. I just led this university into a bunch of debt. The Green family said, that's okay, we'll pay their debt off. Will you come now? They just wrote the check. Nothing wrong with having a lot of money. But they can make more money if they'd be open on Sunday. Maybe. Maybe not. Question isn't, can you make more? The question is it wise? Live as wise, not as unwise. So what I would ask you today is, what is it something in your life that you're going, that's important, but it's not happening? First one I want to mention is intimate time with God. Seek first his kingdom. Pastor, what does that really mean? It means you put God first. But what does it mean in the Greek? It means God should be first in what you do. But what does that mean about my family? It means God should be first. What about my career, Pastor? Hashtag God is first. Hashtag God is first. He's first. Period. And if he's not first, he may as well be last. You don't have time not to have time with God. You don't have time for it. You are too busy not to pray. Too busy not to pray. Intimate time with God and intentional times of rest. We've talked enough about rest in this series, so I'm not going to break that down anymore right now. But what matters, Pastor, that's important stuff. Yeah, we need to have that. I need to spend time with God. Absolutely. I mean, would anyone sit here and say, I don't think we need to spend time with God. I never need to rest. Of course not. Are we doing it? I've seen that before. Where is that? Doing makes the difference. That was the first series of the year. Yeah, doing makes the difference. That's in our bathroom mirrors. Yeah, I've seen that. Can you imagine looking yourself in the mirror and going, I am a follower of Jesus and I do not spend time with him? Something doesn't jive right there, does it? I'm a follower of Jesus Christ of Nazareth and I have no plan to have intentional times of rest. I am restless. Yeah, it's not wise. It's not wise. Is it wise to neglect time with God? Of course not. I know it's a rhetorical question. Is it wise to break the fourth commandment on a regular basis and never have any rhythmic rest in your life? Of course not. But if you're walking away from wisdom, what are you walking towards? What are you walking towards if you're walking away from wisdom? All I'm doing is working harder. If you're walking away from wisdom, what are you walking towards? There's not a lot of neutrality on this one. Either you will suffer slowly, inch by inch, by not doing this, or if you'll honor God with rest, you will increase and implement bit by bit over time. So here's, I guess, my only action point for you, because I don't have I don't have a whole list of saying, you need to quit this, or quit this, or you need to start this. No. But if normal's not working, maybe it's time to get weird. And weird's a pretty unique word, right? It can mean lots of things. It can mean that goofy person that doesn't know how to dress properly at Walmart. Yeah, that could be weird. Or it could just be the person that says, no, we don't spend our time doing that because we don't think it's a priority. Yeah, I know the rest of the culture does, but I'm not conforming anymore to the pattern of this world. I've been transformed by the renewing of my mind. Matter of fact, that's why I'm in a church on a Sunday morning at 10 o'clock when it's absolutely beautiful outside and it's going to be a little warm this afternoon, but I chose to be here this morning instead. I did this first service. It's not in my notes, but I'm going to ask for a show of hands in just a moment. And you're free to blow me off and not do this, but I want you to rewind 5 years ago. At that point in your life, would you have been on a day like today, this time of the year, this kind of weather, would you have been sitting in a church at 10 o'clock? You are right now. Would you have been 5 years ago? If so, keep your hand down. If you're here today, and you're going, no, 5 years ago, I probably would not have been sitting in a church on a day like today. Would you hold your hand up for a good 3 count? You know what that means? That's awesome. What that means is you decided normal wasn't working. And you made an adjustment. Not an even adjustment, a disruption in your life. Because I don't know what needs to be done in your life, but it's not a tweak. And changing your entire schedule on Sunday morning for 50 weeks a year is not a tweak. It's not an adjustment. Chiropractor is a 30-minute adjustment. What you did was surgery. And if you're still doing it, apparently it's beneficial and helpful and God-honoring. And if it's God-honoring, it's going to be what your soul needs. So how do we implement this? Maybe we go back to the last series. What no could release the resources for the yes that you cannot afford right now? So what does it look like for you? I don't know, but it's not an adjustment. It's surgery. I almost said Zeke. Rachel, bring your team up. You don't even look like Zeke, although you both have a lot of hair. Yes, I threw Zeke under the bus. You can tell him that. Zeke told us the other day, man, I've gained 10 pounds since I've been here. All together, we all said, yeah, it must be in the hair. So last question for you as the team's getting ready. If you had an extra hour a day, if God said, hey, should I give you an extra hour a day? What would you tell him to justify his gift? Our first response is normally, I'll work harder, I'll be more effective. Do you think that's the answer he's looking for? Or would it be more along the lines of, Father, I've got 24 hours a day right now. I'm putting you first. I've got time with you. I know it's not every day. It should be every day. I know it's not, but I'm spending quality time with you on a regular basis. I've worked in time for rest, and I work hard, and you've met my needs. If you give me an extra hour a day, I'm going to do the same thing with that hour that I'm doing with the other 24. You might then have justification to say, here's some more time. But chances are, if you're doing that, you already feel like you do have enough time. Friends, this is a teeter-totter in attention. We're never going to balance it perfectly. This is a tension that changes as we get older, changes as we have more finances, changes. It's never going to be stable. Balancing how much time, how much rest, how do I work this out? I've got more responsibilities now. I've got more money. Ooh, I'm at the end of my life now. I'm now on a fixed income. It's going to change all the time, which is why we keep it soft in our hands. We don't squeeze it. It's not our time. It's His. And we just keep it open before Him. I say, Lord, help me. Stand with me if you would. We've been ending each message by reading the words of Jesus out loud. Rachel and her team are ready to lead us, and I trust that you'll follow them as they lead us. Go ahead, Aaron. Let's read this words of Jesus out loud. You ready? Here we go. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul.